From the Shire of Guelph, Ontario, this is the Fellowship of Guelphissauga.
The Fellowship of Guelphissauga continues with the annual Student Housing Games. Unlike last year, this year's games were not being played by the students since they were already getting priced out of the housing market. Only the fat cats in the university's ivory tower could afford to play this year, after apparently not bothering to pay a construction company $6.1 million. The mayor and the council of elders also joined the games as they tried to safely supply more housing without breaking the rule of the ward. Just like the university with their multi-year million-dollar deficits, the mayor faced financial challenges with using his strong mayor powers on his unbalanced books. Can Carly of Classen and the Elder Elves do anything about the Shire's housing cost crisis? And will the university and the mayor balance their books? In the south end of the Shire, the annual student move-in happened this weekend. There was a record-breaking number of first-year students this year, with the university over-enrolling this fall to manage their multi-year million-dollar deficits. Overshadowing the numbers from the double cohort year, hundreds of students were left stranded looking for a place to live. The Shire's housing cost crisis made it unaffordable for most of them to rent rooms, so they hunted for a place to pitch a tent in town. Luckily, thanks to the mayor, they had a map to hunt for their last option housing. Last week, during the Safe Space bylaw battle, the mayor had the Sunshine Listers make a map outlining where it was considered safe to pitch a tent in town. The homeless students could safely set up in the marked locations and be out of view from his office window downtown. They could join the minimum wage earners already living in our parks and forests and compete over the safe spaces there. These new tents will be full of people living in them, unlike those that appeared in the south end of the Shire earlier this year that were full of political agendas. In the ivory tower at the Shire's university, the fat cats there were managing their multi-year million-dollar deficits. They were looking for more cost-cutting measures after over-enrolling their first-year students this fall. Apparently, one of their cost-cutting measures was to not pay a construction company $6.1 million. This was according to the M.J. Dixon Construction Company, who filed a lawsuit against the university for that amount. They claimed they were only partially paid for the total $9.7 million they were promised for renovating the child psychology building at 50 College Avenue. The renovation work was completed 3 years ago, but they claim the university hasn't paid them in full yet. Meanwhile, in the mayor's office downtown, he resumed his game of European-inspired SimCity on a Game Boy he bought at our garage sale. He had to make quick YIMBY or NIMBY decisions to balance things out as the Shire's population problems overheated his Game Boy's batteries. Facing multiple building proposals around town, he needed the support of the Elder Elves and the entire Council of Elders to get it done. But the mayor could only flex his strong power so much with the numbers, with them getting gripped by his commitment to a 4% tax increase next year. One of the mayor's strengths is in marketing, so he tried to use the double yes marketing strategy to get his way. By making a small request first and getting the elder elves to say yes once, they were more likely to say it a second time for a larger request. That way, the mayor could go yimby 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 all over town. The first request he lined up was for next week's Council of Elders meeting with a building proposal on Speedvale Avenue. With 6 stories height and 1 parking space per unit, the mayor knew the elder elves would say yes to this proposal since it followed the rule of the ward and the residents had a place to park their car. The second building proposal tabled for the same meeting next week was far more dubious. It involved a 14-story Tower of Sauron proposal from the developer orcs at Skyline Management. They wanted to break the rule of the ward and have 0 parking spaces for this monstrosity downtown. The mayor hoped that by lining up this dubious request next, it would slip by the elder elves on the council. They might not catch that the Shire's official plan caps the height there at 6 stories, and there would be nowhere for the residents to park. With the batteries on the mayor's Game Boy starting to drain, he tried to hold on with his strong mayor powers. The deadline for his strong budget looms on the horizon later this fall, and he has to balance the books to keep his 4% tax increase promised for next year. That's when we will see just how strong the mayor's powers are at fixing the Shire's housing cost crisis. Can Carly of Classen and the Elder Elves do anything about the Shire's housing cost crisis? And will the university and the mayor balance their books? Stay tuned here to see. This video is brought to you by brighttutoring.ca. Don't let school get in the way of your education. Book a tutoring session today at brighttutoring.ca.